Today's episode is brought to you by In My Bag Apparel and Customs. In My Bag is a brand that collaborates with talented artists from across the country to bring some unique and exclusive concepts to life at a reasonable price. For $15 off your first purchase, visit whatnot.com/invite/in_my_bag 2023. That's whatnot.com/invite/in_my_bag 2023 for $15 off your first purchase. And make sure to check them out on Instagram as well at @in_my_bag 2023. Did you know your ability to retain what happens in your dream has a direct correlation between the night's sleep that you're getting? Either poor night's sleep or being woken up by your dreams greatly intensifies your ability to be able to remember what actually happened in your dreams. Let's get into it. All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Podcast. I am Prescott Kelly. Today is Tuesday, March 25th. Glad to have you back with us. On today's episode, we have Angel Reese goes down, tears her ACL out for the rest of the tournament, what that means for her, college hoops, and really her just trajectory for the WNBA and what it means for college hoops as well. NIL has already spiked to 1,000 college athletes on the men's side of college hoops, already in the transfer portal. The good, bad, the ugly about the transfer portal, what it means and how it's both beneficial and not. And of course, Jimmy Butler coming through in the clutch, supporting your boy over here on Heat Culture and how it is a little bit of an overrated concept, if you will. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, smash the 5-star reviews. Drop your comments and questions in the chat as well. We'll get to those as we move along the episode. We got about an hour to kind of play with here. So Angel Reese, or not Angel Reese, I did that beforehand. I went through that 8 different times. Don't say Angel Reese, say Juju Watkins, and I still done did it again. Juju Watkins, unfortunately, tears her ACL. And the first thing, so whenever I watch anything live, so the game in its entirety, I didn't watch. Full disclosure. And there's going to be a lot of transparency when it comes to this particular March Madness timeframe. So Juju tears her ACL. And the very first thing that I see on just the replay, because I'm scrolling through my socials at work and I see this, is yikes. That doesn't look good. Then you see her on the ground. You go, this is really, really bad. And so I've never torn my ACL. What I have done is I have torn my Achilles though. And this was back when I was a DJ and had no health insurance. You just got to play through the pain, man. And it's just one of those things where the people that are coming in through saying, oh, don't worry, it's only a year. That has nothing to do with it. Yes, modern medicine has gotten us to a point now where it's much easier for players to come back and still be themselves. And at the college level, it's easier to recoup just because you're younger. You have more time. Again, the medicine is good enough now. The technology is good enough where you can still recover and bounce back, but it doesn't happen for everybody. But at least being young, there's some hope more attached to it. But when folks are just, it's fine. You'll be fine in a year. Whenever you blow out your knee or tear your Achilles, it's never good. It's never good news. You never feel good doing it. So folks who've never gone through it and they say, oh, it's not. There's a mind game involved in it that you have no idea what these people go through. But to get back to the game itself, my timeline went as such. It went from this looks awful to this is really bad to Jaden Daniels' mama owes Juju an apology. Because had Jaden, if you haven't, I'm sure that people know about it now. It's been on the internet long enough and there's been enough circulation of this where most people who are sports fans have probably already seen this, is the shot of Jaden Daniels and Juju Watkins just chopping it up, having a good time. Mama Daniels rolls through, gets right in the middle of that thing and says, nope, we ain't doing this. And I know that she has nothing to do with this, but the internet is already kind of running with it. And the fact that that was the third thing that crossed my mind, that's just how I deal with my own bullshit in life. It's the easiest way for me to do it. Sarcasm, laughter. Look what happened to me again. I'll just make fun of it. I'll get ahead of it. I'll make fun of myself beforehand. And I feel kind of bad doing it in retrospect, but it was like that was the third thing that came to my mind was that looks terrible. That looks really bad. And ooh, Jaden, mama, you better apologize. But again, I know that this isn't that deep where she didn't have anything to do with it. But with social media, the way that it is now, I guarantee you that there's some yahoo out there that's already found out, social media handles for Jaden's mom and is blowing that thing up with not so nice things to say. But when it comes to Juju and so for USC, it sounds like their season's pretty much done, right? And like I said, we're going to get more into the transparency of why people probably don't want to hear from people like me, is because I haven't watched any women's college hoops at all until this weekend. And I watched for about 10 minutes, maybe. But that's not a slight on the women's game. That's also a combination of men's and women's. I watched zero men's hoops as well. Um, it's just not something that I necessarily gravitate towards. And I've mentioned this before, and I live in Alaska. I didn't graduate from any of these schools in the lower 48 and then relocate up here. I used to be a Duke fan back in the day because I used to love Grant Hill. That was my favorite. That was my favorite basketball player was Grant Hill. So when I was a kid, I liked Duke. When I was a kid, when it came to college football, I liked University of Texas. I was born in Texas. My dad ended up going to University of Texas for a year or two. So there's some similarities there, but the older that I got, I didn't have the connection to these college programs. So I just kind of stopped following it. So to say that, and also to kind of piggyback off of that, is these sports, when they start to gain traction, the people who are the real fans don't want to hear from you. The newcomer, the Johnny come lately, they're not interested in what you have to say because you haven't been here for, like, you aren't one of the real deal Holyfields, right? So it's the same thing with like bandwagon fans in bigger sports. That's a problem that I used to have in my late 20s and early 30s was I had so much of my identity wrapped up in my fanhood about what I knew and what I did to support how much I love the Buffalo Bills that the older that I got. And now I'm in the space where like I'm labeled as a bad Bills fan just because I just don't have this attachment to the team anymore. I still enjoy sports. I don't enjoy sports fans anymore. That's where I've gotten to. But the people who are new to the scene are giving their opinions, which, look, you're allowed to have your opinion on anything, right? But it helps if you are knowledgeable in what you're talking about. So I understand when the guys like the MMA fans, soccer fans, women's college hoops, or just the WNBA in general, where they get frustrated, where people like me, who don't consume the product very much, come out and want to give you their expert analysis when they don't really have one. There are some, and I one of the things that I try to do here is to tell folks, hey, the box score doesn't tell you the entire thing, right? So like when I watch football, because I watch the NFL, I watch the Bills religiously. The stat box doesn't always tell you everything about what the game is, right? And we can do that word association with quarterbacks sometimes because we're watching it. So you may have had a terrible game up until the fourth quarter, but you're down by 30, and next thing you know, you threw for 150 yards in the fourth quarter and threw two late tutties, so you lost by 10 instead of by 24. The stat line will tell you that they had a good game, but they had a good 6 minutes when nothing mattered, right? But we see that because football runs this country as far as the content machine is concerned. So we're a little bit better, I think, equipped to be able to have those conversations, whereas opposed to these niche sport is not the correct way to put it. But March Madness is a consumable timeline of sports where everybody has an opinion, because what else are you going to do? On top of the fact that women's college hoops is on the rise and folks are starting to enjoy it more and are legitimately watching. But to give a breakdown and analysis of something that you just started watching within the last year and a half, it seems disingenuous, and you're just trying to hop on board of what's hot right now. So when it comes to USC, do I know what this detriment, like what it means to the program and their chances of winning a championship? Not really, but I do know this. Over the last 2 or 3 years, when it comes to women's hoops, besides Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, Juju Watkins is the next person that comes up on my timeline all the time. And the other two aren't in college hoops anymore. So I know that she's good. You put that along with Paige Beckers, it's a name that I recognize. So if it's flooded with my timeline and I can see, well, they're first, second, third in blank, 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 all time. Okay, you probably have the resume is built up where even if I don't watch, I can at least, without trying to mansplain things to other people, I can say, well, I mean, just look at these. Like, this is enough to say, I know you're really good. Do I know the impact it's going to have? Not necessarily. Now, if you ask me when it comes to Deebo Samuel and the Niners and what that means, yes, I can tell you. But Juju Watkins, I can't. But does it mean, look, whenever you lose one of your best players and one of the best players in the country by what most people consider, yeah, it's probably going to be kind of a kick in the nuts for your championship aspirations. But what does it mean for her? I think that that's one of the things that this gets lost a lot of the times is what does the player want to do? And because of the timing on this, it feels like she's in both a win-win situation and a lose-lose situation at the exact same time. And this is the most women's hoops I've ever talked to my entire life. And I want to give a big shout out to Evan Bradfield, who is, you know, the whatnot.com. If you download that app, look for In My Bag Apparel. They are the clothing line that I boost at the beginning of every episode. And Mac Brooks of the Mac Truck Podcast and the Mac Truck Show. It's always cool because they're on actual radio in Iowa and they give me my plugs and they give me my flowers. And I'll make sure I do the exact same for them because they are big women's college hoops fans. And again, I don't want to, this is the thing where I don't want to make this feel like I'm going to give you my expert opinion when I don't have any idea of what I'm talking about. But I want to look at it also from the athlete perspective of what it means for them as individuals, right? So the thing that I think bothers me the most is no, it's not even bothers me the most. I'm getting off topic here. I'm getting off topic because I know that I am on a timeline and I'm starting to overthink things. But when it comes to what's the next goal for Juju after the injury, right? Because of the timeline and the way that it is, if it's supposed to be a year, and that's what people are projecting, it's going to be a full year. If that's the case, that means that she's not going to be coming back if she wants to even stay in college until this time next year. So if she, because apparently from what I understand, she is eligible to come back and play for USC again next year. And if that's the case that she wants to do, you're coming back around the exact same timeline of when you got injured, which with me seeing even just the 10 minutes that I did see, women's college hoops looks way different than the last time I did watch any of it, which was over 10 years ago. It looks completely different from the way that the ball handling, shooting off the dribble, everything looks completely different. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people saying like, well, yeah, man, it's been that way for a number of years. Hey, man, besides the reels that I see, haven't watched a full game in well over 5 years. Well over. So if she wants to come back, if the deadline's a year, you almost have to be ahead of schedule, which again, with today's medicine, you probably can. She can probably be ready in 8-9 months. Now, if she's able to be ready, and this is where the timelines get skewed, is that I feel like she'd have to make her decision before the draft if she wants to come back or not. And if she really feels confident that she could be back before the calendar year of 2026 rolls around, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity because you only get this opportunity once, really, like legitimately. Like when you have these power teams, like I still know the name recognitions of the UConns and the South Carolinas, Tennessees back in the day. Those were the blue bloods, and you may not always get the opportunity to come back and get a championship. So if she feels like she can, I have no problem with it, but you want to make sure that I would imagine you'd want to make sure that your body is prepared before the calendar year turns over. Because at that point in time, you still have 3 more months to get back up to game speed, and you're not just getting thrown into these intense situations and not ready to see what what your legs can really do. Also, she bypasses and goes to the NBA draft. This is the other part of the mental part of this is like, what do I need? What should I do? Do I just go straight to the NBA? Because you can still get the advertisement deals, right? You can still make money off the court while you're rehabbing, while you're on the bench and getting acclimated, just everything else that has to go with the WNBA life. I will say this though, this shouldn't hurt her draft stock. I know that a lot of people get worried about these injuries, especially when it comes to ACLs, MCLs, your Achilles, those things. I understand why there'd be some trepidation, but if they're the generational talent that you think that they are, and I need to stop using that word too, because I get sucked into what the media says, and then next thing I know, I'm part of the lexicon that I don't want to be a part of. Is if you really think that she's supposed to be as good as everybody says that she is, you'd still take her with the number 1 overall pick if she declares for the draft, knowing that you're going to be giving up basically a full season. You give up 1 season, maybe you're still trash again, maybe you get another top 5 pick, and then you're next thing you know, you're set. That's usually how these sports work. And you have to be patient enough to know that you're willing to do that. So she's in a lose-lose situation from one account, and she's in a win-win from another. Just depends on how she wants to look at it. The other thing that, like, in the moment that I think is probably going to be going through her mind too is, and maybe I'm completely just incorrect on this, but she's in the predicament of what happens if South Carolina, like what happens if South Carolina, USC, if University of Southern Cal loses their next game. She's going to be in this mindset of, man, if had I just not got hurt, we could have won a championship. Or let's just say they do win this year. Then there's going to be part of it that can be galvanizing and say, look, we did this for her. But for her individually, it's, man, what was I just too much of the attention getter? Like, if all these were these other women just that much better, and because I had the name recognition, I was too ball dominant, or like if they can win this without me, I mean, what am I here for? And that's a little bit of an extreme, but and maybe that's just me and my self-doubt, because I know that for me, I know that there are a lot of things I bring to the table in certain things in certain aspects of life where I fall short on. And when you see people succeed without you, you think, well, was I really needed? And then when things fall apart because you weren't there, you go, man, if I was just there to pick up the pieces or to take the blame or do something, the outcome would have been different. So that's the other mental part of this, I think, that she's probably going to struggle with. That's the hypothetical of if USC wins this championship. So it's just some food for thought, but I just really hope that she can get back to her greatness. And again, this is not me trying to just pan her down because I know how great she was, because I haven't watched her at all. But you can tell by the way that people talk about her and the way that she's being spoken about and what her impact meant on her team, that she's clearly good at what she does. So without me trying to force a narrative down your throat of how great I know that she is without putting my eyeballs on it, really, I do hope that she gets back to her former form and can move forward and go on to greatness that it seems like most people think that she will be going to. Move it on. So there's been a lot of movement already we're in March Madness, and there's been a lot of college players already going to the transfer portal, and they're already moving spots. So one person that I know says, what is happening to the game that I love? And I don't want to put names out there, especially if they didn't ask for their names to be put out here. So I'll keep it anonymous. And I think that they're a Duke fan. So anytime there's anything to do with Cooper Flag or the NIL deals or people leaving school early or transferring, there's always that thing in the back of your mind as a fan of like, why is this being broken up all the time? And I feel like it's good, and it's like anything else. There's a good and bad of it, right? Folks wanted kids to stay in school longer so that they could have their college basketball affinity back because they're like, oh, the one and done rules ruining it. Then the transfer portals ruining it. This to me is going to be something where it's going to be better for college basketball, but it's probably not going to be better for you as a fan. If you're a diehard fan of the one individual school that you went to or the school that you've always been a fan of, yeah, it's probably not great for you. But basketball and football are a little bit different in this because football, there's like 70 roster spots in college. It's ridiculous. It's like 5 or 6 times the amount of just availability that you have than basketball. So when you lose somebody at the football level, it's all right. Well, we know somebody who we missed on our recruiting the previous year. Maybe we can go get him now. Um, we're not getting all of the. We have certain needs. We know the school has a depth. We can poach them, and or try to at least. And but with basketball, they don't have to stay 3 years. Football, they do. So you can see the turnover, but the best of the best when you kind of see it. College football is something where your eyeballs will tell you who is good and who's not. Basketball can help you do that, but there's always the teams like the Villanovas and the Connecticut's to a degree where they have great chemistry because they've stayed together for a number of years, and or at least beforehand. Like we're talking about March Madness. I think they said this is the first time in 8 years that a mid-major hasn't made it to the Sweet 16. And partially that was because you had teams staying together for 2 and 3 years total. They had their chemistry. They knew exactly what the coaching staffs and the players wanted out of them, the intensity, everything. You knew what you were getting with the guys that you had at that point in time. So with NIL and with the transfer portal being what it is, you're not going to get that, but that creates the parity. I think that's going to create better basketball all around, at least more competitive. That's something where I've been saying this since the NIL stuff happened, is that this is actually going to even more even at the playing field of collegiate sports. Because beforehand, this was my argument, was your only way to the NBA was going to Duke, going to Michigan State, Kansas. You had to go to these big programs. Football, Georgia, Ohio State, at the time, Clemson, Alabama. You had to go to those spots because those were the NFL and NBA factories. They created NFL ready bodies because you didn't have a monetary value to your name, allegedly, until name, image, and likeness really started to take over. So once that came into play, you didn't have to go to Tuscaloosa if you didn't want to, because nobody wants to live there just to live there, right? So NIL has kind of brought a certain balance, if you will, up at the top, because you don't have to just go to those 3 or 4 schools anymore in order to make money. You can stay closer to home if you're a 5-star recruit at another sport. So is it going to be good for you in the feel-good story of your favorite college team? No, probably not. But if you lose one talented person, it'll be easier to just poke another one back. But we're seeing this now even in the Sweet 16, where we still have the big names, but we still had enough parity in the first round or two that you get to still see the upsets, because the other thing too is the talent pool is so deep. All these kids are good hoopers. It depends on coaching, how coachable you actually are, and where you go. Like those things still matter. They certainly matter to professionals. Why wouldn't it matter to a 17, 18, 19-year-old kid? Those things still matter. But reps matter, and that's part of what we're going to get to with Jimmy Butler when it comes to him and his antics on his way out of certain situations, is promises by organizations. But that's another thing too, is that on these recruiting trails, we don't know what's being told these kids, but most of the time they are being told, you're going to be a starter right away, or hey, just sit for a year and you'll be here once this guy goes out. And I'll be here for 4 or 5 years. Don't worry, the coach doesn't go anywhere. And I'm glad that we're able to let the kids still have their own say in it. Again, I understand that the purists and the old heads are going to still have their qualms about what this means for their feel-good story. But it's not about your good feel good story. It's about theirs. It's their life, their journey, what they want to do. So NIL for all of these things, I think overall, I think it's a good in the transfer portal because that's the bigger talking point with the NCAA for college hoops is that it's so active so quickly, and maybe that's the issue that a lot of people are having. Is like, really, you're giving up on your team already, and they're still in the tournament. All right, it's a bad look. But again, these are kids. These are 18, 19-year-old kids who are still trying to find their way through life, much less how to make it on their roster. What's the best course of action for me to get the most playing time, to get the most minutes, to be able to be a way that I can be accentuated, that my talent gets me to the next level. But the problem is there's only so many spots. So, I mean, they put their life into this so far. It's been a young life, it's been a short ride. But what they're trying to do is maximize the dollar, which that's really what everybody's trying to do. Is there a right way and a wrong way to do it? No. There's no right way to do it. I'll say that. There's no perfect science behind it. But the biggest point is that the kids are getting paid now, and they do have an option to do so, to move if they want to. Maybe there needs to be some more hard sanctions as far as like how many times you can do it. Excuse me, when you can apply for your transfer. Maybe there's got to be some more hard rules when it comes to that. But again, the feel good story for you is not really what's important. You're not the one on national television getting booed and getting DM'd with missed shots and how bad you are as a person and or a player and everything else in between. So if we kind of talked about this earlier, where everybody kind of has, I don't even know if we talked about this. I've been putting this episode in my mind for so long now that I don't remember if we said it or not. But one thing I was thinking was like, we all have a price for our happiness. And that again comes back to the Jimmy Butler thing we're getting ready to. But the NIL stuff, I wouldn't worry too much if you're a huge fan of whatever program you're a fan of. Again, whenever you lose one great person, the likeliness of you getting another to fill that hole in your roster is going to be pretty strong. So don't you worry, your team's in good hands. So in the group chat right now, I went ahead and we have some new sponsors for the show. So if you're watching either on YouTube or Facebook Live, if you go to the Playbook Podcast live.codeadx.me, that is, you can find the multiple sponsors that we've got everywhere from coffee to non-alcoholic beverages to sheets and bedwear, everything and everything. If you click that link, it'll take you directly to our promotional and advertising links. But right now, we're going to wrap it up with Jimmy Butler. If anybody else has anything else they want to put into the comment section, you're more than welcome to. But this is the last thing we have scheduled. Is the Jimmy Butler saga always seems to be going on. And the one thing that I've been consistent with, my hot take, if you will, is that people love moving the goalpost on this dude. And I mean, that's pretty typical when it comes to the better players in the NBA, that we constantly move the goalpost. Well, if you did this, now that you've done this, now do it someplace else, or continue doing it here, or XYZ. But with Jimmy, what's weird is that he's a dog. You want him on your roster. And then right as he's getting ready to be out, he's called a cancer. Well, why is that? Maybe it's because, as we talked about a little bit before we moved on to this segment, is you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. There's an implied value that when you sign, now there are some players who are just going to kind of phone in that. Like they're going to check out, they're going to phone in. I've got my money. I don't care anymore. There are always going to be examples of that, sure. But the sample size with Jimmy Butler is long enough now. And it's happened at multiple teams where you know that that's not the case with this dude. Everywhere he's gone, he's won. He's turned around franchises instantly. They're always better, and the team that he leaves are always worse. It happens every single time. So when he's starting to give this ultimatum to the Heat, it's Look, man, I gave you everything that I had. We've been to the NBA Finals twice under my regime. Y'all are not, you have not put up your end of the bargain as the Miami Heat. They've tried and swung for numerous guys. Now, Bradley Beal's been somewhat of a failure in Phoenix, but I never thought the Phoenix, I don't know. He's one of those dudes like when you're playing in Washington, you can just kind of fart around and do whatever you want to, and it's fine because it's the Wizards. I can't take that outfit serious anyways because your name is the Wizards. So Bradley Beal wasn't really one of those like those parts I thought was going to be huge for Miami anyways, but they whiffed on keeping LeBron. They whiffed on getting KD. You know, if all these rumors are true, they whiffed on getting Dame. There was rumors that Giannis wanted to go there. They couldn't land anybody, but they got Butler, and he really is the reason why you guys made it to 2 finals. The best players you can do is Bam Adebayo, who's an undersized center who is a good he's a good basketball player. I like Bam's game overall, but he's an undersized big, and Tyler Hero. That's who you got. Those are the dudes who were supposed to elevate it. So he basically dragged Miami and that donkey of a team to the finals twice. But everywhere that he's gone, and this is always the knock on him, and I want to read this because this is exactly what I see every time. So this is about Heat culture. This is more what I needed to be on topic for it. I kind of got sidetracked. Was when it comes to Heat culture, he says, I'm not saying in a bad way, but I think it's a little bit overused talking about Heat culture. So I'm in this thread and I say, well, he's right though. First thing, I hate when it gets rid of the replies on that. So this guy replies and says, there was zero Heat culture without Riley bringing those players around and without his presence. Jimmy Butler is an immature baby that bitches every time out the door or at every team out the door. But that's what I'm saying. On the way out, but when he first gets there, he's never a problem. Maybe he's just one of those dudes who we talk about. We talk about them as the winner guy. I've used this example multiple times when it comes to quarterback. Is when they don't do something extremely well, but they win. Most of their teams, we've done this with Garoppolo and Tebow. Those are the most extreme examples of this. But when you don't do something physically well, we just call you winner guy. Now, Jimmy Butler isn't that necessarily because, well, even still, you could put him in that category. It's a little inaccurate, but he's not a great three-point shooter. He's not a great ball handler. He is a very good defender, and he always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And that kind of stuff we say that you can't teach it, but you can with good coaching if you get it instilled in them young enough, and if they want to be able to carry those lessons on and go forward with it. But the thing is that everywhere that Jimmy's gone, he's built up a team, tired of dragging teams to conference finals or, the second round of the playoffs and then farting out. And it's everywhere that he's gone. And then he leaves and then that team crumbles. And then maybe like Minnesota's back, quote unquote now, but Philly's a disaster now. And when he left Philly, it was the same situation. He gets there, turns it around. When he wants out, he's a crybaby and whenever he doesn't get his way, so now all of a sudden he's a cancer. And then he leaves, and then Miami's awesome. And now Philly's a dumpster fire. I cannot stand when we just kind of pick and choose the narratives based on that, because my thing when it comes to Heat culture is the comment that was put in there about how there was zero Heat culture before Riley got there and it implemented it. But when did Heat culture start? When you had Shaq and Dwayne Wade, basically? And Shaq's another dude who we don't put in that pantheon of crybaby dude who pushes his way out of certain places when he doesn't get what he wants. But he did that a lot. He's played for like 9 or 10 NBA teams. We don't really think about him in that regard. But Heat culture is so easy to just lay in this blanket statement of we don't know how to define it. And that was the point I was making when we don't know how to quantify it. What excuse do we use? Oh, we don't know. You just win. Heat culture. Heat culture is the whole reason why you guys win. And it's a combination of you got dudes who buy into a system and of thinking in a way of life. Sure. But do you have the people there too? Do you have the players and the dudes? I don't know, man. I think when you had Shaq and Wade, you had the dudes, then you had a little bit of a trickle down, and then you had Wade, Bosh, LeBron, you had the dudes. Bron leaves, a little bit of a trickle down. Got Jimmy Butler. You guys are going to finals again, and now he's gone, and you're left with Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, who I can only imagine the schism, if true, because I don't know what's going on with that with Eric Spoelstra's ex-wife and him. We don't need to get into that. But when those are your players, where's the culture? Because if you still had Heat culture, him leaving wouldn't have resulted in your first 10-game losing streak in almost 20 years. Because that's what actually happened. That was real life. Y'all went from being at least relative, not good, not this year at least, because you guys were just in the finals, 2 years ago? Or the case might have been. And now you lose him. The Warriors have only lost 2 games with Jimmy, and then the Heat go on a 10-game losing streak up until a couple days ago. The point is that you can't just say it's all Heat culture and then you lose your best player and then you're left with a mediocre roster. And mediocre, I think, is being very generous when it comes to Miami. And then, where's the culture then? Those guys should have been able to pick up when Jimmy dipped out, because he was a cancer, right? Once you get rid of the cancer, you're supposed to get better. You're supposed to feel better. And that isn't what happened. We use the term Heat culture, again, when we can't explain why it's good all the time. But having the players helps the situation. And now you don't have that. So Jimmy Butler and me share the exact same sentiment. And it isn't, like he said, I'm not talking bad about it, but it's just an overused statement. And I wholeheartedly agree with it. You can't play it both ways like that and expect to not have a little bit of pushback. So regardless, that's been our episode for the day. We're going to go and hang it up. I got to scoot out in a couple minutes, go pick up kiddo from work. You guys know the drill. You can find the Playbook Podcast live wherever you get your audio podcast. You can also watch us on YouTube if you don't already subscribe there. Like, share, subscribe, smash the 5-star reviews. Make sure that you support Evan Bradfield with In My Bag Custom Apparels. Just go ahead and download the Whatnot app. Search In My Bag. The Mac Truck Podcast as well. You guys know the drill. Stay up, stay blessed, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.